Okay, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good evening. Once again, this is another round of Real Talks webinar series brought to you by Anchorland. And we are excited once again to have you on our webinar. This is already the third webinar episode that we've had. If you haven't seen our other webinars in the past couple of weeks, you can just simply scroll down if you're looking at Facebook, and there's some interesting topics there for you as well. We're also on YouTube and Instagram, and also on WeChat. So if you want to follow us to learn the latest news, or to reach us, or you want to know more about our webinar series and watch them, you can simply add us or subscribe to any of our social media platforms. Okay, so in this particular web talk or webinar, we are going to discuss, as you saw on our invite page, um, this topic is something extremely relevant in today's world, especially now in the COVID world, and even in pre-COVID times, where more of us are migrating online, using e-commerce, and doing all sorts of activities online. Definitely a big topic that has surfaced has really been all about online fraud. Okay, online fraud, and how do you detect and prevent these kinds of fraud from happening to you? And we are extremely lucky today because we are being joined by a one of the, I would say, the forerunners, or one of the top companies promoting digital banking and online security as well, in the Philippines. So we're being joined today by Cheska Montes. She is Vice President and Head of Artificial Intelligence and Data Policy. She's also the Data Protection Officer of Union Bank. And if you've seen their ads online, on Facebook or otherwise, 'di ba? Naalala niyo yung ad nila, yung parang umiiyak yung mga tao, 'di ba? Kasi they're so happy. They're so happy because now banking has been made more efficient and also easier. Okay? These are the guys behind that service, okay? And if my memory serves me correctly, they are one of the pioneers as well of digital banking in this country. So now, without further ado, I would like to introduce and please welcome Cheska Montes, VP and Head of Artificial Intelligence and Data Policy of Union Bank. Hello, Cheska.
Hello. How's
Hi.
everyone? I hope everyone's well and healthy, especially this pandemic. Hope you're
Okay.
staying at home. And right now, we're very reliant on our internet connectivity. And most of us are, just stuck on our screens,
Yep.
watching
Yep.
Netflix and so
Yep.
on. But we still have this notion that life has to move on.
All right. Excellent. So just to start off, Cheska, no? Obviously, I don't know, this might be a obvious question to ask, but do you guys, or have you guys seen a surge in downloads of your app? And are more people using digital banking today as opposed to pre-COVID? Or has the numbers pretty much stayed the same? Can you give us some insights on the usage now, or the adaptability of people to this kind of technology?
Okay. We've seen us extreme surge in our usage, and not just usage, but also on digital account openings. And you can see that the behavior of the consumers have drastically changed
Okay.
since the pandemic happened. And you can now see that their lives have already been dependent on the digital platforms. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can have your food delivered using your phone. But at the end of the day, you think about you are your phone, like
Yeah.
you are your mobile data.
Yeah.
And these days, you're just reliant on digital technology. which makes us when you are in the digital field, or if your products are mostly online, you kind of have an edge over the others who have been just starting since the
Okay.
pandemic happened.
Okay. Okay. So I guess this is another question. No? Given that there is a surge now and we're all in our homes, we're doing everything mostly online. Um, is it? I guess this is been a big question for a lot of Filipinos, especially. No, is it safe uh, to actually do business online? Is it generally safe today, or is it still the same as 4 or 5 years ago? Can you give us some ideas on uh, how much safer it is today or not?
With the pandemic, of
Yeah.
course, most of the criminals also do their um, activities online. So they
Okay.
also shifted their business
Okay.
their business model into cybercrime,
Yeah.
and which adds up to the challenge in the banks, and not just in the banks but also to other platforms or companies that employ security features in
Okay.
their applications and solutions.
Okay.
um However, I just want to highlight that this also enables the enforcers to really beef up their their capabilities to apprehend those perpetrators.
Okay.
In fact, like if you've been seeing the news, there have been arrests made against cyber criminals.
Okay. That's good.
And yes, to be
Mm.
honest, because of that, because of those apprehensions or and arrests, the cyber criminal activities have dropped down. So
Oh, really? Okay. That's good to hear.
we're now seeing fewer phishing sites, and not just that. This is when the time when we felt that the community is all together here and battling cyber
Mm-hmm.
criminal activities.
Mm-hmm.
We have telcos assisting the banks
Okay.
in shutting down phishing sites, or those sites that are fake and
Okay.
apparently leading um to scam the public. So they're the
Okay.
ones helping the bank. So it's really it takes a village to protect the
I agree.
public,
Agree.
especially this
Agree.
pandemic.
Okay. That's very good to know that the authorities are also stepping up their efforts to not just help banks, but also to protect the public from these really bad people who are trying to scam, hardworking people out of their money. And that's really good. And this is very reassuring, especially you guys are one of the leading banks. So if you are telling us that, the criminals are there, they're always going to be there, but at the same time, that measures are actually tougher now, and that everybody's helping one another, whether it's the telcos or the banks or the law enforcement agencies are coming together to fight and make a safer online environment for everybody. And that's great to hear. So I guess, Cheska, could you kindly like maybe inform us, like, how do we determine, first of all, I guess, even though there's a lot of effort going on, right, to prevent these things, I think we as consumers also need to know, how do we identify or determine if an account is legitimate or if it's fake? How do we, at our level as consumers, protect ourselves against these kinds of bad behavior?
Okay. Among the banks, we have been releasing several campaigns against phishing, against
Okay.
online scams, and with the help also of the Bankers Association of the Philippines and the National Privacy Commission, they've
Mm-hmm.
been helping us with the campaign. So first and foremost,
Mm-hmm.
you check the URL, the address. If it doesn't look legitimate, you can see, like, for example, for Union Bank, the I would be like 1, or the O would be like 0. Maybe
Okay.
you first check that, and always check for the SSL, secure layer. Meaning, when you see a lock sign in your URL, it means that's legitimate. So if
Okay.
you don't see a lock sign in your URL or in the address bar, it means that one, that's fake, or two, the provider or that company did not seek the proper
I
security
see.
measures
I see.
for the
I see.
website. So
Yeah.
that's one. That's on
Okay.
the application layer. But you when you receive emails, always remember that the banks or anyone else will not ask you to click a link and then provide ask you the your password or your username. So, and banks don't also ask you the your one time pin in a channel that's not authorized. Like, if you see a link, then ask for your one time pin. That's most probably a phishing site. Okay, so you only input it in within the application or within the website itself. So there's no shouldn't be a different, platform or website that should ask those kinds of passwords or, codes. And also, check on your passwords, of course.
Okay.
It pays well to, change your passwords every 3 months, and so you be able to really protect your account.
Okay.
It's really protecting your account is, it's like dancing. Okay,
Okay.
or dancing a ballroom. We as a bank can protect it, but you also have to protect it on your own, on on
Of
your personal
course.
levels.
Okay. Okay. Very good suggestions. So I guess for people out there, no, who may not be so tech savvy, what Cheska was saying about those things to look out for. No, let's say you're going online, and remember, when you go online, sometimes you can see the toolbar, right, or the search bar. So sometimes, especially if like you're using a smartphone or even a desktop or a laptop, you are going to see, if you search, let's say, a website, there's going to be a little, like, sometimes, correct me if I'm wrong, Cheska, no? Sometimes there it says they're like HTTPS, right? I have seen websites
Yeah.
like that, which you mentioned, that don't have the lock. And sometimes it actually even says they're like, Google would have a warning that says not secure. So it could be, as what Jessica was saying, either this is a fake site that is impersonating an original website, or a legitimate website, or this company may not have secured the necessary security, I guess, software or protocols, if you would like to call it that way, in order to prevent their site from being attacked or from somebody mimicking their site. So these are the things that you kind of have to look out for. And it's good that it's quite obvious, like you don't have to open up something else. It's really right there on your screen, and it shows you if this is a website which is secure and safe to use. And So those are the things that we can do for ourselves that will help us determine if this is a legitimate or fraud site. And so I guess what questions we can also ask, like now, for example, in this world we live in now, no, and I think even post COVID, of course, a lot of processes will be required to be digitized, right? And there are a lot of companies which are not set up in that way, and they are going to require things like e-signatures, which maybe was not as required in the past. We're gonna be seeing more of that. Do you have any suggestions on how people, especially companies and business owners, can can use these technologies without fear of being abused or scammed?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So one of the good things that the COVID has brought us is that um, digital technology is upon us. So whether we like it or not,
It's here
we
to stay.
are forced. Yeah,
Yes, we're
we're forced
forced.
to embrace
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
And even without COVID, we're going there someday anyway. So I think this is about the time that we revisit or rethink about our business models and implement how technology can better equip our business, and in fact it can boost up your sales or your profits. But coming to your question, well, the electronic documents are considered legal under the law, like there's e-commerce act and so on. But the problem usually happens when there's a question on whether that document is authenticated or legitimate. So there are tools out there, the likes of Adobe, DocuSign, which you may find it useful to use. It has a functionality wherein the document that you're signing would be authenticated, and it's tagged to your email address. There's going to be a code when you sign, and there bears your name as well, and that's in fact recognized under our jurisdiction and
Okay.
recognized all over the world in the legal system. So with respect to your to people's question whether it's going to be legitimate or not, it is. um but if you're a small business, with not much funding for those subscription, emails, it's fine. It's actually acceptable under our legal system as well. Like, I approve this something, or
Yeah.
do you agree to
Correct.
the terms and
Hmm.
so on, and then you say yes in the email. So that in effect is also a contract or agreement. So um those are the things that we just need to be accustomed of
Hmm.
these days. And it's might be, if you're brick and mortar industry, might be difficult, but you really have to adjust. There's no such thing as old dogs can only know new tricks, but
Yeah.
old dogs
Yeah.
have to know new tricks.
Exactly. So, thank you for sharing that. It was also a similar theme that in our last webinar was discussed about adapting to the new world, and that there's absolutely there's going to be no more room for people who say, "Oh, I'm not techie. I don't know how to do this. Oh, this is just not how we do things anymore." We have to do it, right? I mean, this is already upon us. It is there. Of course, we don't expect everybody to adjust at the same pace, but if people are thinking that, hey, we can reverse this somehow, I personally feel that it's going to be very difficult, as you mentioned as well, and I'm glad that you're pointing this out, that people can no longer refuse adapting to technology. uh, and if my 80-year-old mother can actually do a lot of stuff online, and we just taught her, I think, like you said, people can learn. And but of course there are still some things that they are not accustomed with, and I'm sure that that's why banks are still kind of flexible. Although, going back to what your company does, and I think we mentioned this earlier on the webinar, you guys were one of the pioneers of digital banking. As far back as maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I've been seeing you guys talking about going online, and not just normal online paying of bills, because this has been around for quite some time, but actually like real banking, like depositing of checks, paying your employees, very complicated things actually, and procedures that we normally used to do inside a branch. can now all be done on a phone or on our laptops or our desktops. And you guys, I remember you guys were really pushing this for a very long time, and I think maybe it's paid off for you guys, because you guys have been really associated with this digital move. So can you just tell us a little bit about maybe some of your products that we as companies, or even let's say I'm a small business owner out there, and we have a lot of small business owners who are our buyers. What are the services that Union Bank, which is one of the top banks in the country, what can you guys, or what can we do on your apps that can really help us in our business?
Okay, to answer your
Yeah.
question, you can do it. Everything that you do on a normal basis with your regular bank that's manual, you can do online with
Okay.
our products. I just wanted to highlight that
Yeah.
we didn't just do it on our own.
Okay.
We also attribute it to our regulator, the Bangko Sentral ng
Okay. Great.
Pilipinas. They've
Okay.
been very, very open. If we think about something, they engage us in conversation. If the regulation would be strict, and they find that this will benefit the public in the long run, they will adjust the regulation based on those pronouncements. And for as long as we espouse financial inclusion,
Mhm.
banking, 70% of Filipinos who have no bank accounts,
I see.
they're
Okay.
going to go for it. That's why our battle cry has been financial inclusion through digital technology.
Okay.
And I think that's the main reason why our regulator has relaxed
Mhm.
certain pronouncements to
Okay.
allow us to perform this, to digitize. Okay, so like the digital account opening, like you can open an account using your phone. um I'm in law school, and I've been telling my classmates, okay, if you can't open your bank account within 10 minutes, um I'm going to give you 500. So on.
Oh, really?
And then they
Okay.
did. Within 10 minutes they opened, and then so I
Mhm.
had to give them 500. Um and and those are the things that even normal people con- have been confounded of. I mean, well, we can open a bank account in just few minutes, whereas when you open it in a manual form,
Yeah.
it's really you know um
Takes so much time.
difficult.
Yeah.
It takes so much time. But with digital technology, we have employed solutions. Like for example, for for the banks, you have to conduct know your customer
Mm-hmm.
mechanisms. Like you have to
Yeah.
know that this
KYC. Yeah.
person really lives KYC.
Yeah.
So we did a selfie verification.
Okay.
In the back end, there are verifiers checking whether the IDs are not fake and so on. And this is a combination of both technology and also human checking. So of course you need to second check what is being accepted by the system. And there you can sign using your fingers, right? So
Yeah.
you, that's also your digital signature. And
Okay.
that's it. You can have an account in those few minutes. You can also deposit your checks there. And for the SMEs, for the banks, we have uh, we just launched certain products. This is in together with UBX, our subsidiary. We have Centro. We have Box. These are solutions which can aid SMEs. Like we can put up websites for you guys. We can put up a community like for Global Linker, where you can converse and check on services which may you may be you may find useful for. So we have these are the platforms that we have launched months back, and coincidentally, we they're very useful these days, especially for SMEs, who have hampered operations in their businesses because of the lockdown. And I think this is the least that we can do for them. I mean, to uplift their spirit that, guys,
Mm-hmm.
there's still hope. We have this for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there are ways that I believe the digital technology can aid the the SMEs. You have, food deliveries,
Yeah.
platforms, and so on. So there are
Okay.
many options which the SMEs can also avail of, not just in the banking sector, but also for other platforms as well.
I see. I see. That's great to hear. Like especially now we're all online. We can't go out. It really helps that you can pay for things online. You don't even need to give cash anymore. And it's also good that our country was kind of transitioning towards these things, right? Like, I mean, a couple of years back, guys like Lazada came in, Zalora, and then we had food deliveries becoming more efficient, and you can do that with the convenience of your phone. And I'm happy now to see that banking, which I also frequent some of the banks here in the Philippines, and it's really difficult, because of the long lines, and then there's only a few staff per branch. So sometimes you end up waiting such a long time to get business done. And I'm glad that, of course, Union Bank and some other providers are now coming with their own offer on how to make banking better. And like you mentioned, it's great that companies can now go to reliable partners who can provide this service. And of course, Union Bank, which is one of the most, one of the safest, one of the most multi-awarded banks in our country. Um, so it's great that we can now go on and have this discussion with a reliable partner such as you guys, and talk about how do we improve and future-proof our business. It's also good that you guys are throwing in some value-added services, like you mentioned, assistance that you can do to help small and medium scale enterprises become more digital, and market in this new kind of ecosystem we have. It's really great that there's a reliable company such as yours that is doing all of this. And I guess we'd also like to ask, like, okay, we're in real estate, all right? So we're in real estate, we're a real estate company. What can you suggest, coming from a digital banking unit such as yours? What can you suggest in terms of how do we, let's say, collect from customers? Because we have a lot of customers. Obviously, we collect rent, we collect amortizations for residential projects and some other installment-based products. So what can you suggest a company like ours, which is, although our company is very much online, but we are not yet, I guess like most real estate companies, we still do things, using a check. Everything is paper based. What could you suggest to a corporation such as ours that does things these ways? How do you think we can, whether we're using Union Bank or some other service, what would be like the 2 or 3 steps we can do now in order to future proof our business?
Okay. First, I, I think the COVID will enable real estate companies to rethink, re-baseline and re-strategize,
Mm-hmm.
determine which processes and business endeavors or projects would uh, benefit from digital technology. Um, but most of them are, can be processed online, like collections and so on.
Okay.
However, for me, it's important to follow the customer experience journey.
Okay.
So you put yourselves in the feet of your customers or your your tenants or your real estate owners and so on, or even fellow developers and brokers, and you follow their customer experience. We call it CX,
Okay.
because with that you can never go wrong.
Okay.
I mean, providing the service that's seamless for them, um, would greatly will enable you to earn their loyalty. And most of the time, if you for me, if my provider provides me seamless service, or they really take time to know how much how much I would benefit, or how much time I would not spend for a particular action item.
Mm-hmm.
I will definitely support that particular company. I also own a condominium, so I kind of understand where you're coming from. Like, I receive emails from time to time, and then asking us to pay in advance the condo due, so they be um be kept running. I mean, their operations will keep on running. However, if you think about it, there are many ways on how to strategize, or use technology in the business sphere. I just If I may cite an example,
Yeah, sure.
um I I happen to stumble into this Singaporean based company. They're offering like an Airbnb type, but you're also bidding, or owning on a per square meter.
Okay.
um Meaning, there's a platform, and then you're you want to own a square meter of a particular condominium, so you get to own that, and then you also get the rental fees of that person, of the occupant, on a
Per
monthly
square meter.
basis,
Yeah.
per square meter, on how much you
Okay.
invested on that platform. And it's really and it's running on blockchain, and it's really cool, and
Okay.
smart contracts and all that jazz.
Yeah.
uh
So it's
these
like
are very
it's like
revolutionary for
fractional
the
ownership, right?
yeah
Like fractional ownership. Yeah.
it's very innovative for the real estate companies. In fact, when you guys invited me, it's the first thing I came up in my mind, like, oh, this is like that particular company I stumbled into. And then it's really it's really, for me, it's a good business model, which
Mm-hmm.
alternative business model, which you may find interest in the future.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure their companies are similar that way here in the Philippines. Um, those are the things that you know that you may re-strategize, and then use digital technology in, in coming up with a new idea. And with that as well, you can also have a seamless payment structure with your tenant, using that particular platform. And
Okay.
before you know it, when you follow the customer experience, the seamless day-to-day operations, or life for a customer, you pretty much get their patronage. And I think that's um, one of the battle cry of Union Bank, is that we really follow customer experience. So right now, we're they're doing bank from home, so we really
Mm-hmm.
follow we follow where they are, and it's also gonna be safer for them to stay at home. So
Yeah.
in these times, you we get to really reap the benefits of what we have done years back.
Okay, that's great. Um, I think we uh, we see a lot of potential, definitely, at least on our end, as a real estate company on how we can improve not just service, but really look at the future of how real estate is going to evolve. Although there might be some limitations regulatorily, and as you mentioned earlier on, it really helps when the regulator is on board and is open to these new ideas. I think recently, perhaps around sometime last year, crowdfunding has already been approved by the SEC for real estate. And there are some companies that I see doing this, but just not so sure how successful they are. But I suppose that these are the early stages of this transition towards that kind of new way of ownership, whereas today we need to buy the entire unit. Maybe in the future we only need to buy 10% of it if we want, or if we want to buy if we want to buy 30% of an entire building, it will also be possible. And these kinds of transactions can be done so much easier on a blockchain technology type platform, or perhaps on a crowdfunding platform. It would really depend on how the market will view this. And I think that, I think we are in the early stages of that. But I also remember that 10 years ago, people were not sure about buying, a piece of clothing online, right? There was that time just 8-10 years ago, not far off from today. There was a time when people were not sure about buying a piece of clothing, or or something like an electric fan or a TV online. But now today we see so many people doing all sorts of transactions online, right? We see people buying baby products. We see people buying electronics. We see people even doing kind of like barter style transactions online. You have these Viber groups where you can go direct to certain people selling their stuff online. So it's already becoming a commonplace for a lot of us. And I'm pretty sure that this will spill over to the other industries in the long run, especially now that we're kind of forced into it. Do you see, however, as your role, of course, as the data protection officer, okay, of your company, do you see now, because there's a lot of questions about, okay, we can do more, we can use more technology, but at the same time there might be some sacrifices in terms of the privacy of individuals. And we've seen TV shows like Black Mirror, if you're not familiar with that, right? For those listening to us, there are now shows out there that are showing the other side, the ugly side of technology. Now, of course, as the data privacy officer of your company, how do you now, encourage this sort of healthy discussion in terms of, okay, we need to move the needle, but at the same time, we also don't want to, let go of certain freedoms that people want, just so that they could become more technologically savvy. So how do you, what do you guys talk about, or what do you guys see in terms of this? Are we going to have less privacy? Are we going to have still the same amount of privacy we have today? Because this is one of the hot button issues, even for regulators all over the world, right? As technology marches on, there is that question of whether, we still need to balance this out with protecting private citizens and their privacy. How do you now, what can you say about this? Or how can you explain to us in perhaps layman's terms, should we be afraid of this, or should we, be adaptive?
Okay. So I always say that your phone knows more about you than you know of yourself.
Mm.
And sometimes you think that um your digital footprints are all over the internet, all over the world, and these are the things that we need to be mindful of, especially when we use social media, Facebook, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
um this is a time when I, as a data protection officer, use certain tests. Okay, so
Okay.
I use this test. One legitimate purpose, meaning there should always be consent. So
Okay.
if you don't like the service, don't use it, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
But there are times when like social media, you're just forced to just accept it because if you cannot use the product or you cannot use the service. Um, and this time when you know when the service is free, you as the human being is the product, and
Okay.
we see that in most of the services and social media platforms that we have. Um, but as an individual or user, we should be mindful of the things that we consent into. Like, take time to read those privacy policies, to determine what data do we really disclose to these providers. Do you really want them to know where you live? So, for example, if when you're using a food delivery application,
Mm-hmm.
um, do you really want these people to know where you exactly live?
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about it, if you don't provide them, your food will not be delivered to you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, um, this is a time when proportionality comes into play. So, meaning, the data that you need to disclose to these providers
Mm-hmm.
should be proportional to the purpose, meaning the legitimate um, basis or consent. So,
Okay.
in if I may say, in the banking sector, uh, we are required to submit certain information to Bangko Sentral
Okay.
for anti-money laundering purposes. So we have to put that in our privacy policy that such disclosure is mandatory. And by subscribing in the bank means that you have to also comply with the law. The same law which the banks need to comply with is, with the BSP. That's one.
Oh, sorry.
The third
Uh,
test is transparency. So transparency means that the people should always be informed of how their data is being processed or disclosed,
yeah.
or who are the parties that will receive those information. So if you're an SME, um, you want to know your customers using the food delivery application.
Mm-hmm.
um, I think you can do so. I'm not privy to the exact data fields that the SMEs, or for example, in this particular example, um, the restaurants would have, with respect to their subscription to the food delivery apps.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm an SME owner or a restaurant owner, I'd want to know what are the profile of these individuals who are buying from my restaurant. Why? Because I want to know how many more ingredients of these kinds I would need to buy in the
Okay.
future, right? And this is for strategic planning and so on. But that's your purpose. However, you need to inform that to your clients. You need to inform that you need their data for business strategy purposes. Um, but if you think about it, you don't really need the names, right? You just
Yeah.
need the profile, like
Mm-hmm.
who the area where they live, probably the gender or the age group. So in this area, there are more old people than the younger people, so and so on. But you don't need to get the names. That's where proportionality comes into play. Wherein you have to, um I call it anonymized, meaning you rendered unidentifiable as a person in someone
Okay.
else's database or processing. Those are the things that you as an individual need to read or need to find out when using applications or these online services. You'll be surprised at how much social media platforms know about you.
Mm-hmm.
like your places you've been to. Like
Mm-hmm.
they can know the what you shop in, in the online shopping
Yeah.
applications, and they have those data. And and right now, the more data you have, the bigger business you will have. So
Mm,
that's the currency now. That's why that's also the reason why I also encourage businesses to, to digitize, because once you know more data, you can, know people based on, their preference, their behaviors,
okay.
um how many people are in this area than the other area. So you
Okay.
can, plan where you're going to build your next building, right?
Yeah.
uh, those are the things that data can bring to you. But I've been hammering, as a data protection officer, you do it with responsibly. Um, do it with, you know having this mindset that it is not yours in the first place. Um, so you, as much as possible, anonymize information, and sometimes aggregate data, are more beneficial than, getting those names, because if you get more names, that adds up to your responsibility of protecting their information. So I suggest, limit your liabilities as well under the Data Privacy Act. So just, use whatever you need to deliver the service there.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for telling us all about this ways of how we're going to protect ourselves. So, I mean, the Data Privacy Act, of course, is there to respond to this new world, right, where there's a data overload already, and where companies, especially these big technology firms, um, and even normal companies like you were mentioning, like even a restaurant is already collecting more data than what they would normally collect or have been able to collect 10 years or 15 years ago, right? um, and while this world we live in might seem scary to some people about, you know how much privacy do you really are expected to give up in order to participate in this new world. It's still good to know that there will be a lot of protection for all of us, whether it's a company or an individual, an adult or a child, man or woman. We are all protected by things like the digital or the Data Privacy Act. And in fact, I understand there's a commission, right, that was specifically formed in the Philippines and so many other countries that are now designed to protect the rights of consumers as to how their data is used and monetized. So we did cover a lot of topics today, and it seems that we only have so much time to talk about all these changes, and I'm sure whatever predictions you or I may have about what will happen in the future, it's still it's still anybody's guess. But one thing that I've learned today is that more companies such as yourself, Union Bank, are providing new services for companies and individuals to be able to reach out to new markets and also be able to operate better in this new and vast digital led world that we live in. And it's good that we have a partner that we can rely on who can help us try and bridge this new world we're trying to cross into. Or how do we also feel more comfortable to do business, and that's through our partners. And it's good that we have institutions such as yourself that are pioneering this change. And we hope that you guys will create more relevant services for all of us that will help us not fall in line anymore, be able to pay people online without leaving the comfort of our office or our homes. be able to purchase things. And so with that, we would like to thank again, before we end, no, we'd like to thank Cheska Montes. Again, she's the VP and Head of Artificial Intelligence and Data Policy. She's also the Data Protection Officer of Union Bank of the Philippines. And, here's to better digital banking, and here's to better days ahead of us. Again, if you're tuning into our webinar, this is Real Talk with Anchorland. This is a series intended to help you navigate the new world we are going into, or that we are about to enter back into again. COVID has changed everything. And if we're expecting that things are going to go back to the normal, you will be sorely disappointed. And you need to start looking at ways to adapt to the new world. And whether you're in real estate like we are, or you're in some other industry, digital transformation is here to stay, and we need to look at it seriously. And again, we'd like to thank Cheska for joining us today. I know she's very busy, and she has shared so many valuable information to us. So again, wherever you are, stay safe, stay home, stay healthy. And I'm sure after all of this, after all of this has been done and over with, we will learn a lot of lessons, and we will go back into the world, and we will be thinking about how do we improve the world even better and prevent something like this from happening again. And how do we make our businesses more future-proof and disruption-proof? And as what Cheska mentioned so many times, how can we even make our businesses boom in the long run? Okay, and technology is a tool that we can use to help ourselves improve and become a better business and a better individual. So let's use technology wisely as well. And as what Cheska was also saying earlier on in the program, be careful of scammers. Scammers and criminals have migrated online, have become more technology savvy as well. It's good that the government is here to protect us, and that institutions such as Union Bank and others out there are helping one another to create a safer environment for us to operate in, okay? At least on a digital scale. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. I thank you for joining us for Real Talk here with Anchorland. Again, we are joined by Cheska Montes, Vice President at Union Bank. And as once again, your host, Michael Arroyo, Marketing Head of Anchorland, wishing you safe times ahead and more prosperous business for everyone in the future. Again, thank you, and see you again till the next Real Talk. Bye-bye.